Shaking like a leaf as she started down the stairs, Grace let out a little surprised squeak when she spotted a body laying face down on the dog-ledge landing. "Fucking great," she muttered under her breath as she tiptoed towards the landing. The woman grimaced as she reached out and prodded the man with the end of the baseball bat. He was wearing a slate-colored coverall of some sort, his blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail which partially covered the man's face. The flesh of his shoulder gave slightly under the probing, grimacing at the vaguely gelatinous sensation, though the man did not seem to move. Hey, are you okay?" Grace asked, her voice an urgent hiss through clenched teeth as she tried to work the bat under the man's arm to lift it. The limb seemed stiff, and just for a second or two, she almost thought someone had left a mannequin laying on the stairwell or something. Biting her bottom lip, she finally decided to thump the man on the side of the head hard enough to hopefully get him to move if he were faking for some reason. Finally, she tried to step over the man, bracing one hand on the railing and aiming her boot for the landing near the edge. A long, awkward step, and then her other foot was on the tread of the stair leading down. Phew. She sighed as she managed to step over the body and steady herself on the tread below the landing. Grace started moving down the stairs and paused after a few steps when something moved in the shadows a little further down the staircase. She threw herself against the wall suddenly, barely daring to breathe as she strained her ears. Her blood froze in her veins when she heard something shuffling on the stairs below her. She wiped at the sweat beading on her brow, then closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and stared down the stairs with the bat held in front of her. Grace rounded the next dog ledge and stopped, her eyes going wide when she saw the two men and women shambling up the stairs to meet her. The closest one, a broad-shouldered giant whose bald head seemed to float thanks to his dark t-shirt, jaw dropped and was groaning as he started struggling drunkenly up the stairs towards her. Grace screamed, an animalistic, terrified sound that threatened to shred her vocal cords as she brought the bat down as hard as she could on top of that vaguely egg-shaped head. The hefty, nilt-hardened ash contacted at the man's skull made a sound like a wet softball getting whacked for a solid line drive. She thought she saw the man's eyes roll as he staggered and wobbled uneasily on his feet while the other man and woman tried to get past him. Still shrieking, Grace wound up and let the first man have it again. The bat crunched into his ear and knocked the man off balance. The man's foot slipped and he tumbled backwards, his great bulk sending the people behind him slipping down the stairs with him in a confused mass of limbs. She stared at the withering pile of bodies for a moment, trying to figure out how to get by them as the people struggled to disentangle themselves. Grace hurried down the stairs, then raised the bat over her head and brought it down on the big man's forehead again and again and again. Finally, the man laid still. The other two struggled to get up from underneath the corpse. She walked up and planted a foot on the dead man's chest, then leaned forward as much as she could, using her body weight to bend the whole writhing mass to the concrete slab beneath them. My eyes wide with fear, Grace raised the bat again and sent it streaking towards the woman's head again and again until her arms felt like overcooked noodles and the muscles in her shoulders burned like fire. There was a blackish gray stuff starting to leak from the woman's ears. It looked like 2 or 3 hard blows to make the last one stop moving. The grisly work done, she staggered back and collapsed against the railing, panting and nauseous and swallowing the bile that trickled up back to her throat. Fuck. She wiped her brow with her palm slowly, lowering herself to the riser of the stairs as she started to lose her battle with gravity. Everything seemed to swim, her vision fuzzy around the edges as she blinked and shook her head. She tried to stand, though she lost her grip on the railing and fell back. No, I can't. She thought. Her brain sputtered as she fought to sit up. Grace whispered and her eyelids fluttered. Oh. Her back and neck throbbed excruciating as she pressed a palm to her forehead. Oh, God damn it. Ow. Her features twisted in a painted grimace as she groped for the railing and then forced herself to sit up. Grace's eyebrow shot up when her eyes fell on the dead bodies a foot or 2 away. After a few deep breaths, she reached up and grabbed for the railing. It took a couple tries, but she managed to get herself to her feet, and though her legs wobbled and her stomach threatened to empty its contents, she gulped and wiped her lips with the back of her hand and then leaned over the railing. Her stomach muscles contracted painfully as she reached over the side, bringing up a pitiful stream of bile and not much else. She hissed, pressing a palm to her forehead in pain as the white-hot blaze slid in between her eyes and twisted itself. Fainted, Grace realized as she carefully bent and picked up the bat, fighting off a wave of vertigo when she stood up. This is so bad, she grumbled, pulling a face at the bitter taste in her mouth when hawked and spat over the railing a few times in a futile attempt to get rid of it. Grace took a deep breath and carefully picked her way around the pile of dead people heaped on the landing, just a few scant feet away. The smell of something off like a miasma of rotten meat started playing with her nose, and Grace made her way down the stairs. Her stomach roiled, threatening to scorch her throat with more acidic bile as the stench curled her nose hairs. She waved a hand in front of her face as the stench started getting stronger the further down she went. Her already queasy stomach was begging her to stop by the time she passed the gray metal door with a No.2 above it.